How modern marriages are failing behind closed doors. There's something profoundly unsettling happening in the sanctuary of modern homes, something we don't talk about at dinner tables or family gatherings. Behind the Instagram photos of anniversary celebrations and the carefully curated Facebook posts about blessed lives, marriages are quietly collapsing. Not with dramatic arguments or broken dishes, but with something far more insidious: silent resignation. And here's what terrifies me most: this isn't happening because people stopped loving each other. It's happening because we've fundamentally misunderstood what marriage actually demands of us. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's just how relationships go. But what if I told you that the very blueprint we're following, the one sold to us by popular culture, by convenience, by our unwillingness to face hard truths, is systematically designed to fail? In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the three critical patterns that are breaking marriages from within. More importantly, I'll reveal what you can do to fortify your own relationship before these patterns take root. Because truly understanding this, might be the difference between building something meaningful and waking up one day next to a stranger. Let me start with something that's going to make some people uncomfortable. Modern marriage has systematically removed masculine purpose from the equation. Now, before you misunderstand me, I'm not talking about some cartoonish chest-beating dominance. I'm talking about something far more fundamental: the capacity to carry weight, to provide direction, to stand as a bulwark against chaos. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. A man's virtue is demonstrated through his willingness to shoulder responsibility that others cannot or will not bear. Look at the data honestly. Marriages where men step back from purposeful leadership, not tyranny but leadership, show significantly higher rates of female-initiated separation. Why? Because when a man becomes passive, when he outsources all decisions, when he shrinks from challenge, something primal in his partner begins to withdraw. She doesn't lose respect consciously. It happens beneath awareness in the ancient circuitry that evaluates mate quality. I've spoken with thousands of men in my clinical practice, and here's what I consistently observe. The moment a man stops having a mission beyond his marriage, beyond his partner's approval, the relationship begins its slow decline. Because women fundamentally are attracted to movement, to purpose, to a man engaged in becoming something greater than his current self. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. But so many modern men have relinquished even this. They've handed their internal compass to their partners, asking perpetually, "What do you want me to do?" Consider the paradox we're living. We tell men to be more emotionally available, more vulnerable, more in touch with their feelings. And these are good things, necessary things even, but we've removed them from their proper context. Vulnerability without strength is simply weakness. Emotional availability without boundaries becomes emotional dependency. And the result? Partners who start as lovers end as parent and child. And here's where it gets more complex. Women are facing an equally devastating contradiction. Modern women are told, quite rightly, that they can achieve anything, that independence is paramount, that they should never need a man. But then they enter marriages carrying this framework, and something fundamental breaks down. The research is clear. Relationships thrive on interdependence, not independence. When either partner operates from a place of, "I don't need you," they've already poisoned the well. Because marriage isn't about need in the survival sense. It's about chosen devotion to mutual growth. There's a Stoic principle here: amor fati, love your fate, including the fate you choose by binding yourself to another. I see this pattern repeatedly. Successful women in high-powered careers come home and subconsciously test their partners. Can you still lead? Can you still challenge me? Can you hold frame when I'm stressed and projecting? And when their partners fail these tests, not because the women are being manipulative, but because they're seeking assurance of strength, resentment builds on both sides. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Feminine energy seeks masculine polarity, not dominance, not control, but clear, directed purpose. When that polarity collapses, when both partners become androgynous, conflict-averse, perpetually negotiating equals, the erotic tension that binds marriages together evaporates. You become roommates managing a household corporation. So, what's the solution? Conscious polarity. The most resilient marriages I've observed share a common characteristic. Both partners understand their distinct strengths and lean into them unapologetically, not because of rigid gender roles imposed from outside, but because they've honestly assessed what each brings to the union. When a man knows his purpose and pursues it with integrity, his partner doesn't feel neglected. She feels invited into something meaningful. Consider this framework. The masculine provides direction and protection, not of the body necessarily, but of the shared vision. The feminine provides nurturing and adaptation, the ability to flow, to intuit, to create emotional safety. These aren't weaknesses on either side, they're specialized strengths. And when both are honored, you create something neither could achieve alone. This is where the Stoic wisdom becomes practical. Focus on what you can control: your own development, your own integrity, your own adherence to principle. Don't wait for your partner to change. Become undeniably strong in your own right, and watch how the entire system reorganizes around that strength. Now, here's something that's going to challenge what every relationship counselor has told you. More communication isn't the answer. Better communication is. And they're not the same thing. Modern couples are drowning in communication, constant texts, emotional check-ins, processing feelings endlessly, but they're struggling from lack of genuine understanding. Research from the Gottman Institute shows something fascinating. The couples who talk the most aren't the happiest. The couples who communicate effectively are. And effectiveness doesn't mean volume, it means precision. It means knowing when to speak and, critically, when to be silent. The Stoics practiced this rigorously. Epictetus taught that we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. I see this particularly with men. They're taught that emotional articulation equals emotional health. So they start analyzing everything, sharing every feeling, turning every situation into a processing session. And their partners, initially pleased, eventually become exhausted. Because constant emotional processing isn't connection. It's anxiety dressed up as vulnerability. Women don't need you to process with them like a girlfriend. They need you to listen, to understand, and then to do something with that understanding. Here's the deeper pattern. Modern communication has become performative. We're not actually trying to understand our partners. We're trying to prove we're working on the relationship. We use therapy language, we acknowledge feelings, we validate experiences. But underneath, we're still not truly listening. We're waiting for our turn to present our counterargument. And this brings us to what I call the silent destroyer. Unspoken expectations that slowly calcify into permanent resentment. Most marriages don't end from one catastrophic event. They end from 10,000 tiny disappointments that were never addressed. She expected him to notice her new effort without being told. He expected her to appreciate his sacrifice without requiring acknowledgement. Neither spoke directly. Both felt perpetually disappointed. This is what happens when we conflate mind reading with connection. The research on contempt, one of Gottman's four horsemen, shows it's the single strongest predictor of separation. And contempt doesn't appear overnight. It builds gradually from unmet expectations and unspoken frustrations. It starts with thinking, they should know this bothers me. It progresses to, if they really loved me, I wouldn't have to explain. It ends with, they're fundamentally incapable of understanding me. Here's what men need to understand about women. She's not testing you to be difficult. She's testing whether you're paying attention to her inner world without her having to explicitly guide you every single time. This isn't about mind reading, it's about pattern recognition, about active engagement with who she is and how she operates. And when you consistently fail this, when you require explicit instruction for everything, she begins to feel like she's managing a child rather than partnering with a man. So how do we fix this? By learning to have the conversations we're most afraid of having. The Stoics had a practice called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They would imagine worst-case scenarios not to catastrophize, but to prepare. Apply this to your marriage. What's the conversation you've been avoiding? The one that makes your stomach tight when you think about it? That's precisely the one you need to have. Not aggressively, not accusatorially, but clearly and without evasion. Here's a framework. When X happens, I feel Y and I need Z. Not, you always do X and you never consider my feelings and you're just like your mother. See the difference? The first takes ownership of your experience. The second is an attack designed to wound. And when you attack, your partner doesn't hear your pain. They hear a threat and respond defensively. But here's the crucial part men miss. You don't just communicate to share feelings. You communicate to solve problems together. After you speak, after she speaks, the question becomes, what are we going to do about this? How do we reorganize our approach so this pain doesn't recur? That's leadership. That's taking joint ownership of the marriage's health rather than just having feelings at each other. And one more thing. Learn when silence is the answer. Not every emotional storm requires your intervention. Sometimes your partner needs to feel something fully before solutions are possible. Your job isn't to fix everything immediately. It's to be present, unshaken, a stable point while the emotional weather passes through. That, too, is a form of profound communication. Now we arrive at perhaps the most insidious pattern. The very comfort that marriages provide becomes the mechanism of their deterioration. This is going to sound paradoxical, but stay with me. Human beings need a degree of challenge to remain psychologically vital. We need edges to grow against, and modern marriage, in its pursuit of comfort and safety, has systematically removed all the edges. Evolutionary psychology tells us something uncomfortable. We're not designed for perpetual peace. Our nervous systems expect variability, challenge, uncertainty. When life becomes too predictable, too comfortable, too routine, something in us begins to atrophy. This is why people in perfectly good marriages sometimes feel inexplicably empty. It's not that anything is wrong, it's that nothing is demanding their full capacity. I see this pattern constantly. Couples establish routines, same restaurants, same vacation spots, same conversation topics, same patterns in every area of life. They call it comfortable and secure. But beneath that, they're slowly boring each other into psychological sleep. The Stoics warned against this. Seneca wrote that we should live each day as if it's both our first and our last, bringing fresh attention to what we've habituated to. Here's what happens neurologically. Novelty triggers dopamine. Predictability doesn't. So when your marriage becomes entirely predictable, when you can anticipate every conversation, every reaction, every pattern, your brain literally stops paying full attention. You're not consciously dissatisfied, but you're also not consciously engaged. You're on autopilot. And autopilot is where marriages fade slowly. And here's where it gets more complicated. Both partners often unconsciously agree to stop growing. There's a phenomenon I call the mutual comfort contract. It sounds like this: I won't challenge you to be better if you don't challenge me. It manifests as one partner gaining weight while the other says nothing. As career ambitions quietly fading while the other doesn't question. As dreams being filed away as impractical while both nod in agreement. You think you're being supportive. Actually, you're colluding in mutual mediocrity. The research on long-term relationship satisfaction shows a fascinating pattern. Couples who grow together stay together. But growth requires discomfort. It requires one partner saying, I love you, and I see you're capable of more than this. That's not cruelty. That's the deepest form of respect. It's saying, I believe in your potential even when you've temporarily forgotten it. Men, listen carefully. If you're not challenging your partner to grow, you're not respecting her. You're treating her like she's fragile, like she can't handle the truth, like she needs protection from reality. But strong women, women worth building a life with, don't want your protection from growth. They want your partnership in growth. They want a man who sees their potential and holds them accountable to it, just as they do for you. So how do we escape this trap? By deliberately introducing productive challenge back into the relationship. Start with individual missions. Each partner needs a purpose beyond the marriage, not to escape it, but to bring vitality back into it. When you're growing individually, you bring that energy home. You have new stories, new perspectives, new capacities. You become interesting again because you're interested in something meaningful. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome while maintaining his philosophical practice. He understood that external achievement without internal cultivation leads to hollowness. Create shared challenges. I'm not talking about couples yoga classes or weekend getaways, though those can help. I'm talking about real challenges that demand your combined strength. Build something together. Start a business. Take on a renovation project. Mentor other couples. Raise children with genuine intentionality rather than just surviving parenthood. When you struggle together towards something difficult, you forge bonds that comfort alone can never create. Practice deliberate novelty. Every month, do something you've never done together. Not because it's fun, though it might be, but because it forces you both to encounter each other in unfamiliar contexts. You see new dimensions of your partner. You can't rely on old patterns, you have to actually pay attention to each other again. And finally, never stop courting each other. The moment you think you've secured your partner is the moment you've started losing them. Not because they're fickle, but because human beings need to feel chosen, continuously. Your marriage shouldn't feel like a done deal. It should feel like a daily choice to continue building something that matters. That's not exhausting. That's what keeps it alive. Remember, comfort isn't the goal. Partnership and meaningful challenges. Security isn't the goal. Mutual growth through shared struggle is. When you understand this, truly understand it, you stop asking, why isn't my marriage making me happy? And start asking, what are we building together that's worth the difficulty? That question changes everything. Look, I've given you a lot to think about here. And if you're feeling uncomfortable right now, good. Comfort, as we've discussed, isn't where transformation happens. Here's what I want you to understand. Your marriage isn't failing because you picked the wrong person. It's failing because you're approaching it with the wrong framework. You've been sold a lie that marriage should be easy, that the right partner won't require work, that love conquers all without effort or sacrifice or deliberate cultivation. But the truth? The beautiful, difficult truth? Marriage is one of the most demanding endeavors you'll ever undertake. It's a forge. It will expose every weakness, every unhealed wound, every lazy habit. And that's not a flaw, that's the feature. Because if you approach it rightly, it's also the greatest opportunity for becoming someone worthy of the life you claim to want. So here's your challenge. Pick one pattern we've discussed today, just one, and commit to transforming it over the next 30 days, not perfecting it, transforming your approach to it. And if this resonated with you, subscribe to Psyche Lens, where we explore these depths regularly. Share this with one man who needs to hear it, because strong marriages don't happen by accident. They're built by people courageous enough to face hard truths and do the difficult work anyway. Now go. Act. Build something worth keeping.